Great. Well, hello. I'm Ross Evans from Xtracycle. We're here at Interbike 2012, and I'm super excited to show you some of our product. We've been hard at work, like extremely hard at work this last year. Very fortunate to have partnered with some fantastic people, and I'm looking forward to showing you around our new product line. So we'll start over at the electric. So basically, this is the first fully conceived of natively electric cargo bike longtail on the market. And the reason I say that is because it was actually developed from the beginning with Justin Lemire Elmore, who saw the potential and joined up with from Sam Whittingham, who's from Quadra Island up in British Columbia, and the partnership is super exciting. And I'll just go through a couple of things that happen with it. In particular, well, so for the nerdy detail, no, so I'll go for the not dirty details. The first step, of course, is just to start with a great cargo bike. And the Edgerunner is awesome for a number of reasons. One is it's got a very stiff frame. It's got a low step over height, which is really critical when your back end is fully loaded. You need to be able to step over easily when you have kids on the back or whatever. It's got a very comfortable riding position, more upright than bent over. What we've learned is, of course, that people riding in the cities aren't so much racing, but they need a very stable stance. And so it sports a very sturdy metropolis bar and stem. It actually also, on the kind of the nerdy level, the front end, actually we use the PIG DH Pro, which is the oversized cartridge bearing headset, which again is really critical when you get into carrying a lot of load. That bearing point is actually what establishes a lot of the stability over the long term of the bicycle. And as we all know, nobody actually maintains their headset, so it's kind of important to actually have that there. Secondarily, but not, I mean, it's not the least, is actually this critical thing, which is about the 20-inch wheel in the back. And interestingly, about the 20-inch wheel, I don't know if you can see it here, it may be easier to see it on another one of the bikes. So the 20-inch wheel on the Edgerunner has numerous advantages, but in particular, in the electric sphere, it turns out that it has the advantage of providing more thrust for the same in the package that's critical when we talk about, we're not talking about speed now, we're talking about the ability to move cargo and weight up a hill, which is really where people need it. In cargo, we're not as much interested in speed, though we're interested in when you have to come to a stop and then start again. That's a little bit harder because you got more resistance. Once you're moving, it's actually great. But when you hit a hill, then of course that's also critical. So a bunch of the benefits of the 20-inch wheel come in specifically to cargo. It brings the center of gravity down, so you essentially have a more stable ride when you're loaded up, which is of course very important with kids or squirmy little creatures. We've also got a much stronger wheel. So in a 20-inch wheel, you have what BMX riders are jumping around on. It's extremely strong, which is also very important when you have cargo on the back of your bike. We have the benefit of a very, very low gear range. So actually in this bike, the non-electric version, it has a 30-inch front, 30-tooth granny gear combined with a 34-inch in the rear, and that makes, when combined with a 20-inch wheel, it's a 16.5 gear inch, which is incredibly low. Again, critical for helping you get your cargo up a hill. We also love the 20-inch wheel for the fact that it allows us a little more space to lengthen the wheelbase of the cargo bike while not lengthening the length of the bike. So it's important to have a bike that's manageable while still having a great cargo area, and we really feel like this is a sweet spot. But the critical piece about the rear axle being moved back is that essentially you end up with a much more stable, more of the platform is available as a stable load carrying platform, whereas on a traditional longtail, that point is a little bit further up, where the axle is more in the center here. We've moved it back a little bit. It ends up making the ride sweeter, easier, fun. We've obviously mounted a fat tire on there in order to give you a little bit more suspension, also protect the whole setup. It really kind of makes for a stable area. Let's see if there's other things that I was going to say about that. Obviously equipped with disc brakes, BB7s, and let's see here, what was the other ones? Oh yeah, so basically those are obviously really critical elements that go on with a cargo bike. But when we move into the electric, that's really where it gets magical, because again, on most existing bikes, they're not intended for carrying cargo. We're really talking about an electric sphere. we are talking about bikes that really are about carrying a passenger, making it a little bit easier for people. A wonderful addition, and really has brought more people into cycling that has been open to it before. We're interested in expanding the number of people who really start to think about replacing car trips. And when you do that, people start to worry about, well, will this be too heavy? Will it be too hard? And so the exciting thing about marrying electric with cargo is that the two are better together. And in particular, we felt like it was important to make sure that this bike would be able to get up a hill with a load. And where we're from in the Bay Area, there's some quite significant hills. And that's something that needed to be addressed for our customers. And of course, it ends up being also what we call super torquey. It's actually greater thrust. When paired, so it comes standard with a 36 volt battery, which effectively will produce 715 watts through our 25 amp controller. But with the 48 volt battery, you get like 915 watts of thrust out of it, or of essential power to come out of the. So extremely high pickup, given that it's got a small wheel and the internal gear reduction. We've done this bike in conjunction with the eZee motor, which has been redeveloped by Justin Lemire-Elmore, and he's really our key partner in this. So Justin, of course, from Grin Technologies, a real pioneer of e-bikes, is actually an incredibly accomplished cargo bike rider as well. Has ridden his Xtracycle across Canada. I think it cost him like $7 in electrical use or something. He did a really cool report about that. He also developed the Cycle Analyst, the preeminent controller, and readout for e-bikes. This bike comes standard with a little bit more of a basic version. Really, it's just giving you a simple battery readout, and then ultimately you can just essentially tell it how much assist you want to give when you give it the throttle. So that's what that's for. Other things to note about this, we use, there's a lot to be said about the planetary gear systems in these bikes. A lot of people might say, well, isn't it when you're under more load? Isn't the gearing susceptible to more strain? And so we actually spec'd a much, much higher quality engineered plastic where the gears were machined from that plastic to give it just a much higher level of robustness, which of course is critical when you start loading it up and going up these hills. So those are the critical pieces. I guess the final piece, which is really, really cool, is Justin developed and his team developed a very cool battery mount system. And I'll see if I can kind of get this off sort of handily for you to see how that works. It's basically a very cool twist lock. You have to unhook the Anderson like that. So the Anderson connector just disconnects, and you can pull it out through here. And if you want to zoom in on that, you can check out the battery. It's a very cool design, machined up in their shop in Vancouver. So again, battery placement is critical, and this battery placement is in the optimal place. This kind of dense mass is positioned in the exact place where you'd want it to be in terms of it, A, using space that isn't currently used, and B, being in the optimal position between the axles for just being unaffected by that cargo load. It also is nice that it's kind of tucked out of the way, so in general, people don't even know that this is an electric bike. If they don't happen to read this, a lot of people don't even notice this readout here or don't know what it does. But I like that stealth factor. It just kind of, e-bikes cost a lot of money, batteries cost a lot of money, and not having somebody mess with it is kind of a nice, theft prevention feature. But it also, just adds to a layer of stealth when you, it's kind of funny when you've got a passenger on the back and you fly by a road rider going up a hill, and they think, wow, something is wrong with me. I must not have eaten my Wheaties, So anyway, that's another fun feature about this, which of course makes it easy to pop off. A lot of e-bikes can be taken indoors or upstairs really easily. Cargo bikes a little bit less so. So if you need to, it's really easy to pop the battery off. Obviously it's got a key lock on there. So if you take the key with you can't steal the battery. It's a very, very secure system. That's all the kind of nuts and bolts of the electric side of this. A very powerful, very useful, incredibly thought through package designed for long term. Now, one thing I'll say that Justin in particular calls out about the tradition around e-bikes is that they tend towards, a lot of big companies tend towards proprietary systems. So you can't change out the battery. You have to buy a Bionics battery to go with your Bionics system. And if some part in there fails, you buy the entire thing again. This, because it's a very, very high value of Justin's, and I trust him as a leader and one of the key players in the world of e-bikes, I really trusted him to guide us. And what he guided us towards was something that really made sense to me, which is that this bike will outlast whatever company is making batteries or whatever company is making motors. All the components are swappable, and the connectors are standard. And so it's really a critical feature of our value set to have a bike that over time, we anticipate people will have these bikes for years, replacing car trips, having fun, but that they won't ever have an issue with finding another battery that they can plug in, because it's got the Anderson connector right there. They won't ever have a problem swapping out parts, or the controller can be popped off and a different motor controller can be added. So another kind of wonderful feature and a critical feature for that.